I really like Webflow. When someone first told me like I had to check it out, I decided I didn't like it before even looking. Like the idea of a no code website builder, it just doesn't. I don't know. There's nothing about that sounds awesome to me as someone who's made websites with code for 25 years. But then I started playing with it and I came around pretty quick. But there's one aspect of working in Webflow that still has friction for me. Before I talk about that, I want to talk about what object-oriented CSS is. I think I first started learning about this whatever this book came out by Jonathan Snook, SMACS, which is Scalable Modular Architecture for CSS. And this has a lot in common with what is like pure object-oriented CSS. First time I heard that term was from Nicole Sullivan as she talked about the media abstraction, which is like an image beside picture. Oh, this is a media abstraction. So you got an image, you got text beside it. This is all back in the day when we used floats for everything. And Harry Roberts has talked a lot about CSS or object-oriented CSS as well. The best example, or like the most widely used example anyway, is the Bootstrap 4 and up. This is, this is a pretty good example of an object-oriented framework. So like a really good example of that would be like this is the spacing utility. So if it starts with an M or it starts with a P, then it's margin or padding respectively. Then there's top, bottom, left, right, x-axis, y-axis. And it's on a magnitude of 1 to 5. And that's kind of... I actually usually don't like class names that are really abstract like that. But once you learn it, it's pretty sticky. So that's an example of like one of my favorite abstractions is for the margin and the padding. And so the way that can really improve your code base is you're starting to build things with like Lego blocks instead of building everything from scratch. You can imagine if this site doesn't have a good example. Just trying to. Oh yeah, so over here, whatever this site is, I haven't dug into it, but like if you had like class for like right side widget, like, and you start adding all the styles that are needed on that thing, then you have to like add all the styles that make this thing look the way it does. Then as your site grows by pages, your CSS is going to grow on a 1-to-1 scale. And I've definitely seen that before. Like before we did the Tim Hortons refresh at a agency I was at, we found that every campaign would be creating its own landing page and the styles would be like 80% the same, but we would just be creating a new bunch of CSS. The advantage to object-oriented is you start breaking those components down. So you have the common padding, you have the common coloring and such. So where that all falls apart a little bit is inside Webflow. So this is a boilerplate template thing that I started. And I started trying to bring some of the object-oriented naming from Bootstrap. There's a lot of hate for Bootstrap out there, but like when you start using it, you're just inheriting like 2 million developer hours from fantastic web developers. So even if you just use the naming scheme, all of a sudden their documentation works for you. Like you can just adopt some of what they've done and go quite a long way. So, you know, I started with like the headings and the display and hard to see spacing utilities. So like right here, I've got my P4. You can't see it, but when I fork this as a starting point for a site, I have those styles built in. And what I really love about, you know, you do the one style that does one thing. When you come to the, what is this called? The style panel. The thing that is changed will only be in one area. Whereas if you had like, you know, the search widget and it has sizing and padding and margins and display and typography and colors, like you're going to need to be in all of these things and you're going to need to be like surgeon with precision and like detail orientedness as you find all the different things. Man, it could get confusing. So I like making these classes that do just one thing. So we'll look at another one. There's display 4. And so it has like a weight and a font size. Like it's just typography based. But the problem gets into if I added, like I wanted to add some margin to this one, I might not have done the margin bottom. So I start typing NB. I could add NB2 and that's nice. It did do something. But if I was like, I actually want NB4, and if I like just create that style now, it's actually created a conflated class. So somewhere in the styling, I should be able to find it. There's probably a quicker way to do this, but so NB4. Yeah. So we have a display 4 with an NB4. And so I bet in my CSS, if I were to dig into that, I would see there's a selector with like dot display -4 space dot MB -4. And that's not what I want. That isn't object oriented. That's starting to get like specificity wars. So I got to delete that. And then my workflow has been like, I get back over here and then I do the little Alfred thing and I stick in a div, and then I've got to like add my class there. So, MB4, and then I'm going to go like 24. So like, then if I just delete that, it probably deletes the style. So then I got to add this here, MB-4, and then I would have to like delete this guy. But it's a framework, so I'm just going to like leave that. But yeah, what would actually make that a little more convenient is if, like, I guess it's a feature the way it will conflate your styles, but when you're trying to do things in an object-oriented way, it creates friction. The other issue is like on an active site, you'll have elements that have like 5 classes on them. Some people don't like that; they feel like it's messy. But I would argue if you're just putting one class on everything, you're just moving the mess into the style sheet. So yeah, there are times where you have an element that has several classes on it. I'll just add a padding class onto this. So let's pretend this is a website, and this is mostly the way I want it. But man, I want it to be display 3 instead of display 4. When I come up here to edit my classes, there's just not actually a way to do that without deleting all of them. So it'd be nice if there was like, I don't know, maybe a site-wide setting where I could be in object-oriented mode, and then hovering over this would also let me remove class, or maybe there'd be a little X or something like that. But as it is now, I'd have to delete them all and then add back the others. And I don't know, I just don't like remembering things like that. It's the kind of thing that just really slows you down. So, other than the object-oriented friction that can be caused in Webflow, this is a pretty sweet tool, and I've really enjoyed it.